More development along the Honeysuckle waterfront. That's what Planning Minister Rob Stokes says the state government wants to see.
It's been frustration to the development industry, but also to people in Newcastle generally, that some of this great land is used for car parks when it could be more usefully used for homes and businesses.
The biggest hold-up, according to the minister, the fact the city is undermined by old mine shafts. Today he got a look at the grouting of one of those shafts with 6,000 cubic metres of fly ash and cement pumped in so that a $38 million 9-storey residential and commercial building can be erected on this plot of land.
We're really keen to do all we can to facilitate development of these sites by dealing with these historical mining legacies.
However, while progress is chugging along on that development, the minister wouldn't or couldn't comment on the state's preferred route for the city's light rail network.
I will leave those sorts of matters to my colleague, the Minister for Transport.
Although he did welcome the creation of a memorandum of understanding between Urban Growth and Newcastle Council to discuss the future of the existing rail corridor.
It means that Urban Growth as a property development arm of government and Newcastle City Council as the representative body for the local residents are going to work together on how best to see this corridor used for the best public benefit.
Madeline McKell, NBN News.
It's hard not to notice the latest additions to Bar Beach. At around 4 metres high, these structures are drawing plenty of interest.
Well, there's lots of work going on, but I'm not quite sure what they're doing there.
I've been going past a few times and I've been thinking, I wonder what they are and whether, what they're going to be, don't know, some kind of pavilion or something.
Well, they're building another cafe or something.
Yeah, like little mini kiosks along the side.
They are, in fact, 4 covered shade shelters, an artist's impression showing what they will look like once complete. While there's concern about their height, Lord Mayor Nuatali Nelms says the planting of trees will help soften their look.
These shade shelters have been broadly consulted with the community. They are bigger to hold more people, but they are a very modern design and will be softened by a lot of vegetation around them.
Construction of the shelters and a new car park are the final stages of the $2 million upgrade at Bar Beach.
So we should be done by the end of July, which is fantastic because that will mean our whole Bathers Way project from Merriweather right through to Newcastle Beach will be halfway complete.
Meanwhile, Newcastle's beaches continue their slow recovery after large swell battered the coastline. Some of the city's most popular swimming spots were barely recognisable last week, following what's been described as the worst erosion in decades. Renee Feder, NBN News.
Here in the bush, on his bike, Adam Frail feels at home, and he's using that passion to help raise money for another cause close to his heart. Driven by the recent loss of his wife Karen to melanoma, he's organised a charity ride to raise money for the Cancer Council.
I'm just hoping that what I've gone through with my wife, that in the future that there can be something found to help with the cause of cancer.
The community has thrown its support behind Adam and his daughter Sophie, who will also be taking part in Australia's biggest morning tea for a 3rd year.
I guess just because we all felt so helpless as a family, so it was nice to be able to do something and give back to the Cancer Council.
So far, 120 people have signed on to take part in Adam's ride, which will travel from Lorne to Ashtonfield on Sunday, while taking in this previously hidden track.
We've had so much response. Bloomfield Colliery and Dollinson Colliery have come on board and let us into their property. First time that the event's ever been allowed to run in there, so it's a one-off.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
He was the only coach to survive the Stubbins Tinkler clear-out. Now James Pascoe has been chosen to help plan the Jets pre-season and assist with recruitment. A-League boss Damien de Bowen says a new head coach will be appointed before the pre-season starts on June 22, and there's no guarantee Pascoe will be part of their staff.
The new coach will have a big say in the people around him, and but from our perspective, we need to keep moving forward as well. And I guess the good news for James and other people who are in roles is they get a chance to prove themselves.
De Bowen joined Northern New South Wales football CEO David Eland at a forum for Hunter business leaders last night.
I came away from the forum feeling very positive, and I'm very confident that if we get the right structures and processes in place, the business community are going to want to engage again with this club.
De Bowen says a new major sponsor will be announced soon, but his biggest concern is re-engaging with the fans and building a club to rival Western Sydney.
The reality is that they jam-pack Pertex Stadium week in, week out with a group of 18,000 people who passionately believe that that's their club. And that's what we're trying to achieve here.
They've already booked a place in the Waratah Championship playoffs. Now the goal for the Hunters women is a home semi-final. But losing Susie Walmsley to a broken finger will hurt the cause.
We're hoping to get her back by the semis. That's sort of our aim at this stage. She's obviously pretty gutted, as is the team, to lose her. She's a big asset for us. And so in that sense, everyone else is just going to have to step up.
Husband and wife Josh and Jill Morgan today modelled the uniforms they'll wear when Newcastle hosts the Sydney Comets, raising money for the Hunter Breast Cancer Foundation. It's a cause close to home. Jill's mother and 2 aunts have fought the disease.
You know, we're hoping to get lots of money in so that it's something I don't have to deal with in the future and my daughter doesn't have to deal with in the future, because, you know, these things are genetic and you just never know.
The men sit just outside a playoff berth, so for them the clash with the Comets is a must-win.
Yeah, we had a week off practice last week after 2 good wins, so had a good session on Tuesday night at practice and we're ready to go this weekend.
It's usually home to professional rugby league or football, but this October the Ice Stadium Festival will give runners the chance to experience Hunter Stadium.
Well, we really wanted to create a unique running experience for the people of Newcastle and New South Wales, and why not start and finish inside and such an iconic part of Newcastle.
At last night's launch, organisers announced events including a kids race, 5 and 10k runs and a half marathon. Olympians Victoria Mitchell and Eloise Wellings will be among a field that could feature as many as 5,000 competitors.
It's going to be great. It's a flat, fast course. The prize money's awesome, which actually helps us fund our Olympic campaign. And, you know, it's supporting a local charity. It's going to be a real family event.
At a staggering 40 metres high, this tank has the capacity to hold 30,000 tonnes of liquefied natural gas. It's part of AGL's new $310 million Newcastle gas storage facility, which was unveiled today, a project 7 years in the making. CEO Andy Veazey believes the facility is a vital asset, not only to the Hunter but for the state.
This is a peaking facility, so when gas demand is at its highest, this ensures that industrial, commercial and residential users of gas have a continuous supply.
It will also aid in the event of a major disruption to the gas network, with the Tomago facility able to supply the region with gas for up to 2 weeks. Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter, Scott MacDonald, says gas is crucial to the local region.
It underpins the Hunter economy. Approximately $2 billion worth of economic activity comes out of businesses that use gas as a feedstock. So if it supports that, it's terrific.
If it goes ahead, gas from AGL's controversial CSG project in Gloucester could also wind up at this storage facility. After being cleared of contamination issues last month, Mr Veazey says the project will resume once a decision is made on where flowback water will be stored.
The Gloucester project, for us, we believe is very critical to ensure the good security and price of gas. It's an important project to us, and we believe we can develop it in a sustainable and safe manner.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
It's been a contentious issue from the beginning, and now Deputy Premier Troy Grant says it's time for CSG mining in the Northern Rivers to end.
We're ultimately moving to where the community in certain parts of the area, of the state, do not want coal seam gas. We are moving on a strategic and sound policy setting to hopefully achieving that goal. In other areas of the state, CSG is more welcomed and it's a vital part of our future state economy.
It will be a costly move. The New South Wales government would need to compensate Metgasco to the tune of $140 million. However, those against AGL's operation in Gloucester are not expected to experience the same reprieve.
Despite some people who have gone into the area to protest their angst against this issue, there are a lot of people that support the industry in that area.
While addressing fellow party members, Mr Grant spoke of the importance of ensuring mining and agriculture can coexist. But when asked whether the Drayton South mine extension in the Upper Hunter should go ahead, he declined to comment.
I'll let the independent process from government, take its course.
Upper Hunter MP Michael Johnson says he's behind the move, as it will provide much needed employment opportunities.
I definitely support the current proposal, particularly now that they have willingly given up exploration licence areas which were covering the neighbouring horse studs.
The Nationals Conference continues tomorrow. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's undoubtedly one of the Hunter's most viable industries, but Tourism Hunter Chair Will Creedon says change is needed for the long-term future of regional tourism, particularly in relation to securing funding.
Tourism over the last decade or so has lived with a model, a policy framework that isn't right for today or for tomorrow.
Tourism Hunter has decided to take action, announcing a period of dormancy until a new model is developed.
There is no question that on the short term it will have some hurt. Our research, our coordination, absolutely. But on the medium to long term, we have the opportunity to reach our potential.
Mr Creedon believes visitor numbers could double by 2020 if change is implemented. Renee Feder, NBN News.
They've got about 7 or 8 players with NRL experience. We've probably got 2 that have played a couple of games, so it is a big task.
After a sluggish start, Charlestown's victory last weekend over NPL glamour club Broadmeadow Magic was a welcome relief.
Oh, there's always pressure. Always pressure. Losing a few players and a few injuries and ins and outs, but that's part of the job.
The Highfields-based club has won 2 matches out of 9 played so far this season. They struggled right from the get-go after the shock loss of star striker Kane Goodchild to Hamilton Olympic on the eve of the season.
He lends a lot to our structure going forward and bringing players into the game. So, we had to rethink what we do.
In hindsight, would you have tried harder to keep him?
Oh, definitely. But look, when a player's mind's made up, they're going to go no matter what. So, we haven't dwelled on that too much.
The Blues face third place Edgeworth this Sunday, and a hopeful home ground advantage counts for plenty.
Now, it's a bit bobbly, probably won't suit Edgeworth that much. Might suit us. A few off the shin and knee will go our way, and hopefully we get the 3 points.
In other round 10 NPL matches this weekend, Jets Youth take on the Lambton Jaffers, the Bears are at home to Adamstown. In the bottom of the table clash, Maitland plays the Gunners at Cook Square, and in the derby, Hamilton Olympic host Broadmeadow Magic. Michael Kane, NBN News. Final track preparations today for a new event in the city. The Super Motocross Championships have been held in Queensland for the past 2 years. Now it's moved to Newcastle. Today's showers have had local organisers worried. Thankfully, there's no more rain in the weekend forecast.
It was going to be a really, really good spectacle, but and hopefully it still will be. We'll get some sunshine and make it happen. The track's the easy part. It's just the weather that's hurting us at the moment.
For this 16-year-old from Cessnock, the championships will be a new test.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I've never done supermoto before, coming from a dirt track and road racing background, but hopefully with the practice I can kind of pick up the style of riding I need to get the best results for this weekend.
2013 Australian Super Motocross winner and last year's runner-up Andrew McLeish has travelled down from the Whitsundays and is determined to win back the title.
It's a long way away from home. It's about a 22 hour drive. Everyone's here to win it, but I'm more determined and I'm here to do it.
What are you doing with your tyres there?
Just doing some grooves in them, just to throwing the options out there for practice in the morning. So groove slick tyre, so hopefully if the weather stays out it might work.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
It's a very different landscape to what existed here between 1949 and 1960. At the site of the old Greta migrant camp, today former residents remembered and reflected on the past. The camp was home to thousands of European refugees and immigrants.
We came with a dream and seeking a better life. It was basically my mother's initiative and strength of character to make that journey, and we arrived at a place called Australia, and here we are.
The day of special significance to Myra Cluina, who was the 50,000th person to call Greta home. She was just 7 years old when she was welcomed with toys by the then Immigration Minister Arthur Caldwell.
We were just so happy to get some toys because we didn't have any.
Joining Myra was her brother Inaz, who says he's proud to call Australia home.
And I have been back to Latvia, and that's a home also, but this is the real home where we grew up, where we live, and where we feel we also very much belong.
Today's reunion was the first of 7 events in the Hunter to celebrate National Refugee Week.
As a community, as a nation, we mustn't forget our historical roots and the contribution that migrants and refugees have made to this country that is Australia.
Renee Feder, NBN News.
This festival came about as a way to do something positive for the community of Newcastle in light of the Reclaim Australia movement, which is scapegoating a minority part of our community.
The Gropers came to Passmore Oval keen to keep their semi-final aspirations on track. But the Hawks meant business straight away and through quick hands, Artie Economou finishing under the posts. It didn't get any better for Nelson Bay with this interception soon after. Hamilton were finding its groove and showing why it sits 6 points adrift on top of the premiership ladder, this time Tana Lautu pinning his ears back for the line. More 5-pointers to Rob Smith. Economou again, and Sam Brennan blew the score out to 40-0. But there was some light at the end of the half for the Bay. An inside ball by Chad Northcott from the breakdown sent Adam Edwards over. Down by 33, the Gropers didn't throw in the towel. A pushover try straight after the break gave them more hope. But the Hawks cruised right to the very end, winning 59-31. In other matches, the Waratahs were too good for the Greens, Maitland thrashed Lake Macquarie, Southern Beaches defeated the Students, and the two Blues didn't get out of second gear in their big win over Singleton. Michael Kane, NBN News.
It's the line in the sand that has residents up in arms. Earlier this month, Lake Macquarie Council began sand dune restoration work north of Manila Street at Blacksmiths. Council now claims the works are being sabotaged, with trees, signs and barricades being ripped out of the ground.
The planting occurred by the school students on Wednesday. It was vandalised sometime Thursday, Friday, and the local volunteers found it on the Saturday.
Residents say they aren't responsible and don't support such action. Instead, they argue they're the only ones who truly care for the area, having maintained one pathway for 3 generations.
They try and say that we're vandals, like you have a look at it, they're vandalised what we had here.
Acting on council's instructions, Blacksmiths June Care began work to close the access tracks earlier this month. Grass was killed off to help new vegetation grow and mesh barricades installed.
This track had always been here, and a 2-3 metre wide track has never done any damage to the dunes.
June Care declined to comment on camera today, but did say it'll work with council and residents to reach a mutual outcome. Samuel Jordan, NBN News. She's had 107 of them before, but Thelma Spencer reckons her 108th birthday party was the best yet.
Oh, wonderful. Absolutely marvellous. People are marvellous. I had no idea there was going to be that much fuss.
Mrs. Spencer spent the day with loved ones at Belmont, the centre of attention. She's given up alcohol and chocolate, but there were still plenty of treats today, as well as a few laughs.
No one wants my organs. Well, they're all dead.
An avid sports fan, Mrs. Spencer's been staying up until 3 a.m. to watch the cricket. She also follows the Cronulla Sharks, but when she was asked today whether she'll ever see them win a premiership,
I don't think that'll happen, really.
Mrs. Spencer spent most of her life in Sydney before moving to Valentine, but she says she's already planned her return.
My grave's all paid out in Sydney.
But you're not going to use that for a while. You've got to hit the one, the 100.
Samuel Jordan, NBN News.
For this photographer, getting the best out of his clients is all in a day's work.
Come on, let's do a champion shot. 1, 2, 3, go. Love your work. You are champions.
Photography gives the man they call Groover his groove.
Photography for me is about friendships. It's about the connection from one person to another or a group of people. And you just build on that and you work on this project and you create this beautiful picture of them, what they want and what you like.
But it hasn't always been a life of snapping pics. At 15, he was tasked with captaining his father's fishing trawler.
It was really challenging, hard work. I learned how to work hard and suffer a bit of pain and suffer in the elements, so to speak, cold and wind in winter and alone in the dark at sea.
The hard work and long hours at sea took its toll. Eddie had a mental breakdown. He then spent a period of time in hospital. Years later, he found the strength to talk about the experience.
The soul-destroying experience with massive fear, confusion and helplessness. I was placed in a straitjacket and locked in the big dark room, which is known as the seclusion room. It was a very scary place. But I survived that and got out and have grown on and focused on positives and rebuilt my life. I was his sound engineer and tour photographer. Toured Australia for Rodney Rood, was in some videos with him, and he's just mad. He's funny and he's naughty.
That experience spurred on a larrikin streak.
I can remember once I spent 2 days with Alexander Downer and 50 overseas foreign diplomats, and I asked Alexander Downer to suck his sponsored by Tui's tummy in because it's not a good look. Sometimes I do push the boundaries.
And few can say they have the Prime Minister on speed dial after a chance meeting at a triathlon.
I was a technical official. I'm on the motorbike on the course. So I went up to Tony Abbott, called his number 29, and he looked at me and he said, yes, and I said, number 29, I've got a message for you. You are gone, you look a mess. And we became friends, and when he came to Newcastle, he said, let's do a ride. So we did a ride and a run off the bike.
It was at the #1 sports ground where Eddie played his first and last game of AFL, care of a high shot to the head.
Whereabouts?
Oh, just straight down here in this area, and I don't really remember it. My daughter took a photo of actually the moment that it all happened, so that's how I know that's exactly where it did happen. Not a lot of people like to talk about it much. So what happened?
Why is that?
I think it was too traumatic and sickening for it, the way that it happened.
The long road of rehabilitation in a brain clinic followed.
Well, I couldn't talk, couldn't walk properly, and just used to sleep all the time.
Little by little, Eddie got back to full health with a new outlook. He now teaches photography to people with acquired brain injuries.
Help them to have 2 exhibitions, working on the 3rd exhibition for them now, because people with a brain injury, they're fine. It's just that they can't talk, or they can't walk, or they can't walk or talk, but they've still got an active mind. I want to get the most out of life. I also want to contribute and help others get the most out of life as well.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Hoping to maintain top spot, Andrew Swan went close to putting Hamilton in front. Olympic did eventually score first, as Simon Mooney's free kick found a way through. Broadmeadow suffered another setback when Jaden Barber went off injured. Matthew Swan went close to adding a second for Olympic, but Nathan Archbold kept it out. After the break, Archbold couldn't keep out this shot by Andrew Swan, as Hamilton made it 2-0. Olympic had a great chance to make it 3 in the final minutes, but Archbold held his nerve. At Lyle Carr Oval, Bren Hamill couldn't find a way past Paul Bitts. Charlestown City then hit the front thanks to an impressive free kick by Daniel Bird. But the Eagles soon hit back as Hamill's corner was finished off by the Blues' Damien Cox. Edgeworth had the chance to take the lead when Matt Tull brought down Keanu Moore. Justin Tannick calmly finished off the spot kick. Late in the game, there was a bit of push and shove, and a Blues official was sent to the sheds. Aaron McLaughlin had the chance to increase the advantage, but 2-1 was how it stayed. Another great crowd turned out for the final day of the Australian Supermoto Championship, with fans grabbing any vantage point they could near Foreshore Park. In the Premier class, Queensland rider Andrew McLeish was the first man into turn 1. By the time the field moved from the road to the dirt, UK riders Chris Hodgson and Lewis Cornish were in hot pursuit. Midway through the race, McLeish was looking confident, but then a simple mistake ruined his run. Hodgson pounced to claim the lead for himself. The British riders would eventually relegate McLeish to third, as Hodgson and Cornish grabbed the top 2 spots on the podium. That trend would continue in the afternoon as Hodgson won the overall title. Paul Kaslik backed up from the S2 class to claim the over 45 crown.
The Premier paying a visit to one of many rural communities still doing it tough after the April storm. Woodville dairy farmers David and Tony Volmer estimate they lost $250,000 in feed crops.
Yeah, we just finished planting, well, all but finished planting for the season, just before the flood came.
Today came some relief, with Mike Baird announcing recovery grants of up to $15,000 for affected farmers in the Hunter and Central Coast, acknowledging the importance of local agriculture to the state's economy.
And it will provide a leg up to those primary producers trying to get back up on their feet, obviously after the consequence of the storm.
Because this is going to help these fellows get on with rebuilding their businesses and ensuring that they can continue to support Australia the way that they do now.
It'll help buy feed, repair machinery and replace what was lost.
15,000 is a massive help. That'll all go back into seed, fertiliser and just try and get feed up and running for the cows again.
The Premier then made his way to Dungog, where 3 lives were lost, to thank the SES for its tireless efforts.
We are so grateful for what you have done. We are so much richer as a state for having you there.
$145,000 was announced to provide another 2 caseworkers at the Dungog Community Centre.
Don't be afraid to ask. Now is the time to ask for help. We want that help to be here.
About 19 households in the Dungog area still remain displaced after the floods and storms. It's hoped the money the Premier delivered today will go towards helping those families.
Having someone to walk with you, hold your hand and be that shoulder and that guide is going to make a huge difference to people in the Dungog community.
Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
This is a great first for the people of Newcastle. This is going to be launched nationwide and will help recently arrival refugees settle better into Australia and prevent the problems associated with drug and alcohol misuse.
It was an event many said couldn't be held on Newcastle foreshore. And those behind the Supermoto Championship say they chose to play it safe by not over-promoting it.
For no ads, an awful lot of people turned up.
I was going to say, why no ads?
Because I didn't want too many people to turn up.
Newcastle Council was also told not to ramp up the attention by organisers in case crowds and traffic became too much to handle. But the event paid off anyway, with Council today saying early estimates regarding economic return to Newcastle are over $5.4 million. For this surf club takeaway, winter is usually slow.
Oh, it was very busy. We got smashed, absolutely smashed.
Another worry for promoters was how the Foreshore Park surface would handle the wear and tear of two-wheeled horsepower.
Excellent, actually. It's far better than I thought. I paid a massive bond to the council to guarantee that we'd rectify the grass, and rectify the grass we will.
According to organisers, the two-day event was a success with an estimated 20,000 people in attendance. But now it's all about the big picture.
It was a test case to see if we can. You know, I'd love to bring a round of the Asian Supermoto Championships here, hopefully next year.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
Xander Russell knows how special he is.
Did you know there are only 1,000 people in Australia who have albinism?
But what he's really keen to let us know is that he's an ordinary boy too, who loves hanging with mates, watching movies and eating takeaway. Albinism is just part of the Xander picture.
The only thing that's different is that you don't have any melanin and you have to protect your skin because it's very fair.
To mark the weekend's first Albinism Awareness Day, Xander put together a presentation for schoolmates at Plattsburgh Public, today sharing his story with Years 1 and 2 students. As well as fair skin and hair, albinism means he has a significant vision impairment.
I'm lucky because I can see enough to read, walk around and not get into too much trouble, except for the times I walked into poles.
The kids had plenty of questions and Xander handled them with confidence and his signature humour.
Can't get tans or coloured hair. I have to stick with the hair that looks like you've retired.
His proud mum Kirsty is used to the questions and is keen to dispel albinism's many myths.
Particularly about the red eye myth. It's, obviously the eyes aren't red, they're blue or another colour, but they can actually glow red just with a lack of pigmentation in there.
For Xander, who also has high-functioning autism, speaking on behalf of the albinism community is an honour he takes very seriously.
Since I'm representing 999 people, I think that's a big thing for an 11-year-old. I'm not even in year 6 yet.
We're trying to give him the self-esteem, just that self-love, that understanding of himself and what he's capable of, and that he's capable of anything he wants to do.
I think I'll become a famous person one day.
Xander, you're already on your way.
In some distress, Sam Kerr. Now Australia will try to find the touch. In some distress, Sam Kerr. Now Australia will try to find the touch.
"9 days ago, he was scoring against the Raiders. Today, Joey Leilua appeared on Frank Pritchard's Instagram, confirming he's on his way to Canberra.
At the end of the day, he doesn't want to be here, and that's the bottom line. I just want blokes who want to be here and blokes who understand what their job is and take responsibility for their role and make sure they play their hearts out each week.
Rick Stone isn't blaming Leilua for Newcastle's form slump, but the coach believes his contract situation has been an unwanted distraction.
It's a hard one to pull the trigger on, and possibly it mightn't make our team any better, but it's one we think for the long run will be better for our club.
The Knights are now hoping to add a new front rower, possibly in a trade with the Raiders, but at this stage it's unlikely to be David Shillington.
Myself, Matt Gidley and Michael Hagan have been working through some scenarios there, some with Canberra, some sort of with other clubs, and trying to come up with the right scenario to fit the club.
With Leilua gone, Newcastle is sweating on the return of a host of injured players, with the likes of Tyrone Roberts and Jeremy Smith racing to be fit for the clash with the Sharks. Robbie Rocco is in the mix to return from back surgery, while Jared Mullen is considered a long shot. Newcastle was slow out of the blocks against Perth. But when Scott Swiston scored his first goal for the club, the North Stars were back in it. Down 3-2, Swiston and Luke Moffat eventually put the home side in front. But the Thunder somehow found a goal in the final 2 seconds to send the game to extra time. Newcastle went on to lose its third shootout this season. There was much better news last night against the Ice Dogs. Swiston again proved a valuable asset, setting up several goals while scoring 3 himself, as Newcastle hammered the Sydney side 9-2. In Women's Premier League football, Adamstown thrashed Wallsend 6-0 over the weekend. Claire Cummings scored an impressive double as Rosebud established a 5-0 lead at half-time. Lauren Allen finished with a hat-trick as Adamstown maintained equal top spot. Other winners from round 14 were Merriweather, Mid-North Coast and South Wallsend. Onto two wheels, and Wanji's Chris Aitken has taken out the third and final event of the Newcastle cyclocross season. Midway through the race, Aitken was locked in a battle with Sydney's Gary Milburn, but by the final lap, the local lad had done enough. The women's division was won by former Olympian Anoni Wood.
A $60 million commitment to make this shopping complex a whole lot bigger. It's a massive show of confidence by Stockland, with the company looking to almost double the number of stores in its Glendale centre. Under the proposal, around 50 new shops will open, with the project creating close to 600 direct jobs during the construction phase.
The population of Lake Macquarie City is growing in leaps and bounds, and what this means is new jobs for people moving to the lake. It's a great outcome for everybody.
The expansion is expected to generate an extra $34.1 million in revenue for the property giant. Despite early predictions nearby centres could take a hit, the region's economic development company isn't concerned.
I think the reality is Charlestown Square is already a thriving retail centre, and with the population growth, there is room for more development in this city. So I'd see it as complementary rather than taking away from Charlestown.
In another boost for the region, Stockland could be required to provide $3.2 million for the Lake Macquarie Transport Interchange as a condition of consent.
Yeah, it's quite exciting times for council. As you say, it's been on the books for a number of years, and to see it actually come to fruition in some form with some work on site, it's a really good outcome.
The project is expected to go before the Joint Regional Planning Panel next month. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Imagine 35,000 of these disturbing your sleep. Well, that's exactly what this group of Muswellbrook residents is dealing with. 6 months ago, the bats moved in. Now locals are close to moving out.
They're not nocturnal animals, I'm telling you. They are there day and night, flying around, screeching. You just can't get away from it. The smell is horrendous.
Jenny Tanner runs the Riverside Caravan Park that backs onto the river. She says business has dropped by up to 50%.
We had an old couple come in yesterday looking for a caravan site. They drove over that speed bump, got out, walked around, saw the bats and said, oh no, we can't stay here.
She's contacted council but hasn't had any luck.
I've contacted everybody that I know to contact.
It's not just behind this caravan park and residences close by where the bats have moved in. Locals say it looks exactly like this for 5 kilometres along the Hunter River. Garth Belford runs a hardware store further down the street. He says stock that's for sale outside continually needs to be cleaned due to the bats. He also has health concerns.
There's going to be contamination in the river as it flows through. The Hendra virus is one of my concerns, that being a horse area around here.
Muswellbrook Council says it's working with the Office of Environment and Heritage to monitor the colony over the coming weeks. If the bats stay put, the council will consider developing a policy to determine the best way to disperse them. Vivian von Drainen, NBN News.
It's very important for our rehabilitation patients, our learn to swim, so we can offer those programs all year round in a heated facility.
That's why I'm in the team. That's what I'm good at. So I do enjoy it because
I guess it gives us the edge to hopefully get the win on Wednesday.
A day after the departure, the Knights captain was more than happy to offer his thoughts on Joey Leilua and anyone not 100% committed to the club.
I want a teammate who I can rely on and who I can trust and who wants to be there. So if anyone else wants a release, I'm sure they can go in and see Matt and grab one straight away, because we don't want people here who don't want to play for us.
The big centre's cameo on Frank Pritchard's Instagram yesterday was news to him.
I haven't seen it. What is it? Honestly, first I've heard of it, so I don't really have a comment on it.
Despite the untimely exit, Gidley hopes it could challenge younger players within the club to make the top grade.
That's how I was brought through, looking up to my senior players. You know, I wanted to play alongside guys who I looked up to, and you know, I'm club captain. I hope there's guys who want to play alongside me.
The side takes on Cronulla on Sunday, and with halfback Tyrone Roberts set to return from injury, Gidley appears likely to head back to fullback. The club is currently 14th on the NRL ladder, but the players aren't riding off hopes of finals football just yet.
There's a whole heap of the season left to go, that's for sure. And, you know, I wouldn't even talk about giving up. You know, it's not part of my DNA, that's for sure.
Michael Kane, NBN News.
I think that's the interesting part of it all. We've got taekwondo, clay shooting, archery, and then obviously your mainstream sports, your netball, athletics, basketball. So there's something there for everyone to have a try.